Okay, let's get started. So I'm gonna need you guys' help on this book because I've been reading commentaries and everything is boring. Like it's boring, right? It's like nothing juicy about this story, which is a juicy story, but the commentaries are just so dry and boring. And so the other books, I found a lot of interesting stuff, which is why they were interesting. But this one, I'm like, it's us and the text. So yeah, so I'm gonna really rely on you.
Hold on, just to clarify, it's 15 out of 15, right?
Yes.
She thought you were giving her 90s.
Oh, 90s? Like 15 out of 20? Oh, no, you're good. Okay, good. All right, let's start with your questions. So I have some good points from Corcoran to start with. So it's interesting. We see the clear shift now from a matriarchal society to patriarchal society. Remember, I told you the history of Babylon? Of course, before it was Babylon, which is where we are, right? It was Sumer, right? And we've studied the text of Sumer, Inanna, Dumuzi. This is the same region, which later becomes Babylon, right? Under the Persians and Babylonians. So we had this region was extremely matriarchal, and now we're moving into a more patriarchal society. Remember the story, Marduk comes and defeats. That's the founding story of Babylon, right? Marduk, male god, comes and defeats Tiamat, who is female, forces of chaos. So the female here represents actually the forces of chaos, is the opposite of what we know, right? Normally, we saw that the female was the Lady Wisdom, affiliated with the forces of order, right? Both Inanna that we studied and Ma'at were associated with the forces of order. Inanna is connected in the story where she goes to steal wisdom from the god of wisdom with the me, which signifies basically cosmic law. And Ma'at, right? And this also is same thing, the Ma'at, right? Which is also cosmic law, right? So up until now, the female is associated with wisdom and with cosmic order. This was back in the time when that region was more of a matriarchal society. Now with Babylon, with the coming, right, the invasion of the Semites and the making of the city of Babylon, you have the opposite, to flip it. Now it's Marduk, the male god, who defeats the female forces of chaos, represented by Tiamat, the snake, right? It's like all the stories are all the same, but mixed up. Tiamat versus Marduk. It's a very interesting observation that now wisdom is the prerogative of man, right? In this story, it's interesting. It's hi. Are you got something? Ah, okay. What's happening? Who is this? Okay, good. So yes, so now we have right very interesting point right from Corcoran, which I'll take note of also. We have a shift of wisdom from female hands to male hands, right? And this was even the case during Daniel, right? Daniel was considered a wise man. You still had a little bit of the female influence because if you recall, I think it was the grandson of Nebuchadnezzar, Belshazzar. You're the only one who understands what I'm saying because we're talking about the book of Daniel, which no one apparently has read. So Belshazzar is a grandson of Nebuchadnezzar who started the exile, and he was messing around with the temple dishware, throwing a party with it. And at one point, a judgment of God was passed during that party, and the queen mother counsels him. So there's this element of wisdom still embodied by a woman there at the time, under Belshazzar. But now we have moved entirely into, right, wisdom being the male prerogative. So very interesting observation. Yes, very nice. I'm also wondering about the 30 days of her being, anybody thought about that? I almost want to interpret all of Esther allegorically, like, like maybe we'll find something in that way. But any ideas?
Yeah. About the numbers significance, but I just like interpreted it as her saying like he doesn't call on me that often, so I'm supposed to approach him about this issue.
Yeah.
And we don't have that kind of connection.
For sure, for sure. But why does it specify 30? Like it could have been many days, or right? When yeah, it's a month, but what does that mean? Yes.
Well, whether she's pregnant or not.
Is it?
What I thought.
I don't know, man. It doesn't seem the type. Okay, okay, nice. Why not? Any other interpretation of the 30 days or thoughts about
We
the
don't know
30?
biology like that.
Guys just don't know anything.
It's giving a timeline for the entire story, which takes place in like 2 months.
Yeah,
Really short story.
that's true. Well, 1 year where she gets the beauty treatments, right? And then it's like,
Talking about like when stuff actually.
oh, when stuff begins, yeah, it's like a
Beginning of
month.
the decree to the end of the decree is like 2 months.
Yeah, that's true, that's true, that's true. Okay, okay.
How did it take like a year?
That's another question I have.
Yeah, you haven't been around.
It's like, exactly, it's like precise days.
Trolling them.
I ask my sister and my mom that like every time we need to get ready.
Why are you taking it here?
What, yeah,
He said he's having parties for 6 months.
is he? Not
Oh,
6
that's
months,
great.
2 weeks, or where
Parties
did
for a
you
long time.
100? Oh, yes, 100. This is
He
insane.
has a party for the big guys and then
That's
he has-
nice.
then he has a week-long party for everybody else who happens to be. in
You're
town.
right. Where is this? Let me see.
So he's.
Where's 180 days?
The bad king.
He's a
Also
party-
in that.
Sounds pretty fun.
He's a party king, but he's not king.
Where's the 180 days now? Because this is interesting.
It was like one of the first times.
Yeah.
It's the fourth one. It's fourth.
Fourth?
One
Can't
fourth.
beat him.
Oh, yeah, that's so cool.
He made a great banquet. for
Okay.
his sister,
I don't know. Maybe there's some numerology that we.
108 days. But every number in this, to me, it's all like exaggeration.
Yeah, it
Like
seems
the
like.
number of people who get killed and the number of.
Yeah.
This is like.
180 days makes sense.
Classic
30
exaggeration.
days is the only one that I could imagine
Yeah.
being literal, all the other numbers. Like,
No, the 180 days makes sense. If you're throwing a party for the entire kingdom, it takes time for people to get there.
That's a good
Not
point.
everybody's there at the same time. You're not partying for 180 days straight.
I don't
It's a
know.
180 day,
Because
you
they
know,
don't-
time period where everybody's, coming in,
the
you know,
other people
celebrating
were
with the
there,
king and then
all the
leaving.
ministers
It takes
and
3 months.
Can we not talk all at once? Like, take turns.
in general, like biblical stuff, I'm of the opinion that most numbers shouldn't be taken literally, because it's like, and this army had 20,000 soldiers in
Yeah,
legion, and they marched, drank the rivers dry, like.
yeah. Okay, so maybe hyperbole, right? Okay. And I'm still not completely, but okay, we'll go with that. Here's another question.
Symbolic.
So here's another question Cordoran is asking beyond the numbers. Why did Esther give Mordechai the credit when he caught the two men plotting, right? So he tells her, and then she tells and makes sure the king knows it's Mordechai. Any ideas? I mean, apart from it's great political, right? Trying to get her families, covered. So that's one reason. Any other reason
So
why?
this happened while she was queen, or it was
Right
something that
after.
happened before?
Right
Oh,
after.
before she was queen.
No, I checked and it's right after, if you check, I believe it's right after her coronation. You don't think she had the ear of the king before? This is what?
Is this before?
Yeah, way before.
Can it be like, like she's taking a practice?
Yeah.
Role in like, having the king like view the Jews in a good light. Like,
That
he
could be.
doesn't know that Esther's a Jew, but she knows that Mordecai is.
That could be, right? Politically saying, let's get these Jews on the right side of the king, right? On the good side of the king. So I see it also kind of politically. And yeah, you see right above verse 17, the king loved Esther more than all the other women, and he gave her a royal diadem, blah, blah. And then shortly after, otherwise you don't think that as a concubine, she would have been having these conversations, right? She was already queen, not great queen, but queen nevertheless. So interesting. Okay, yeah. And then, okay, now here's a good one. I agree with that. I've always thought that was a bad idea. So Mordechai refuses to bow before Haman, right? Now, he doesn't have to not bow according to Jewish religion, right? This, you don't bow before idols, but before people, as a sign of respect, or you can bow. What's he doing? Why is he calling trouble upon himself with one of the highest officials of the land? What kind of assimilation and integration is this? Anybody have thoughts about why he refuses to bow? What a bad idea that is, personally, I think, yes.
Well, the reason is the very reason you stated about assimilation and integration. The Jews don't assimilate and they don't integrate. They never do. They never have. they've always stuck out, so this is kind of part of it.
Yeah, but in the context
Is
of
it the brightest
Esther,
idea? Probably not.
yeah.
But it's very within the culture.
And I mean, Jews don't assimilate when it's like important, like Daniel, right? He wouldn't bow in front of an idol. He would, continue praying. But this is not a religious setting, right? This is very secular. It looks like
It's always
ego
religious
trip.
setting.
You could say that. Although Book of Esther, if you were there last time, you would have heard that we mentioned that unlike Daniel, right, the Book of Esther is much more secretive about Jewish identity, right? At least Esther. So there is a stronger pull to assimilate and hide in the Book of Esther than in Daniel. And it for me, it doesn't look like a religious issue. It looks like an ego power trip, right? So
I
yeah,
think we
sorry,
do-
yes,
I think we do have a religious prohibition against bowing to some degree. And
yeah.
it might not be
Or
Yeah.
prostrate, like,
Yeah.
on the floor.
kneeling.
Is that what he was asking?
Definitely
You
kneeling.
could do that to people either.
Oh,
way.
knelt,
Allowed, but,
knelt.
like, getting control.
Knelt and bowed low.
Is that a later development? Or is it
It's a good question. I mean,
It
Yeah.
says,
I
it
have,
says in the commentary.
Well, they knelt and I just saw that. They had to kneel and bow down, just like when you see Muslims pray like that.
because
So that,
the explanation for the like halakhic explanation for why we don't kneel is because you're not allowed to prostrate to idols, and so you're not allowed to bow to stones, like in the literal commandment. And so I know, but here's the thing, like even if you're bowing to, say, God, but you're on stones as you do it, like that's how strong the prohibition is, that you can't even be on like a stone floor when you're doing it. And so that's why, I mean, I've heard it explained before by a Jewish person, not a Muslim person, but he told me like that's why Muslims lay down carpets when they pray, so that the like floor, that they have like a different flooring and they're not prostrating to or on stones.
We do
And
similar
We do the same thing.
on,
Yom Kippur.
On Yom Kippur, yeah, that's why we do it on Rosh.
there's like one specific instance of like full on the floor prostrate.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's just-
yes, good point. Okay, fair enough. Yep.
Well, if you consider him to be divinely appointed,
Yes,
and then you have his second in command.
Got
and
it.
you have- Then it
Mm.
rubs off on him as well.
Yes,
to
yes, yes,
bow
yes, yes.
down to
That looks like,
somebody
yes.
close
Yeah.
to-
And I,
Not your God.
Yeah.
And then could be the other part that he just thinks, a despicable person.
Yeah.
He's a despicable
Yeah, I feel like there's a little bit of
person.
that.
I need to show respect to him.
Okay.
He doesn't deserve respect.
Good,
and
good,
I
good.
could be remembering wrong, but I'm pretty sure I heard that Rabbi Sachs, when he was being knighted by the queen,
Mm.
he explained to her that he could not bow to her.
Oh, well, yeah.
That he couldn't.
Good, yeah. And she allowed it?
Yeah.
Okay, yes, that she was very tolerant.
Search
Okay.
officers.
No, I believe you, I believe you.
I'm
Okay.
not sure if I believe myself.
No, I could see her understanding. Okay, Davidov is the next one. What did I write here? Gosh, what did I write? Yes, so he's not very sympathetic to what we're about to do, which is talking about Achashverosh as having any type of dignity in the text, right? Although you point out some nice things about him, so you're that shows you come from there. You're more open and and able to assimilate and appreciate context, right? More sensitive to the beauty around you. So yes, it's true. He is really a force of chaos, and we'll see that at the beginning of the text. We're going to study that. So I appreciate that. So let's skip over to Michal, who actually has some respect for the king. So here are some elements you noticed that I hadn't noticed actually. So the banquet is for all, great and small. Shows like the king is, everybody's welcome, not just the high elites, but also the lower folk, right? So this king is kind of an accepting king, right? Also, you say that he speaks, he allows every man to speak his own language in his home. So there's a notion of respect for culture. That's nice. And then, of course, he defers, he listens. There's an element of listening, right, to the wise man. He eventually also listens to Esther, right? So there is some wisdom in this king, and the fact that he is able to listen, right? At the same time, we'll see that initially he is a mess, right? So I appreciate that. Yeah, that was, thank you. Good. Kaplan enjoyed very much the big spa scene in chapter, I believe, chapter 2. Me too. No, not chapter two, chapter two. I want to study this spa scene, so we're gonna try and look at it today a little bit. And then Suresh, you highlight correctly that there is a purification element in the spa, so we're gonna look at that. And then the seven maids is interesting, the number seven, maybe. Have to see. Rivera, in your text, Mordechai dreams about a dragon. So this is when before when is that and what's the context? Yeah, why not? I think I'm gonna write my book from this text, much more interesting. It's dragons. It's the Hellenistic version. The later version that the rabbis rewrote to make it more interesting and
Oh.
yeah.
That kind of be actually.
It is. It's a very fun. Where am I reading? Chapter 11.
The rabbis you wrote with them, like, why don't we have?
Where is it? Oh, here it is. A prophetic dream of impending dangers to the Jews. And he dreams about a dragon, which would be Tiamat recurring, right? The forces of chaos, perhaps. I'll look at it. I'll look at it after. I want to read this paragraph in peace and quiet. Not with y'all looking over my shoulder. So thanks. That's interesting. So reverting of the forces of chaos back, right? He's having this dream of the dragon. Interesting also in your text, the parallels between the king and God. Same element of fear of dying when you enter in the presence of the king, just like for God. And also the notion of waiting, right? Is God going to answer my prayer? And no control, right? This is the wild God that we discovered in the book of Job already, right? So, interesting. Okay, good. Yeah. This is a good observations. I'm going to keep them here so I can write them down later. But what I want to do now is go over chapter 1 together slowly. I want us to look at Queen Vashti, the relationship between Queen Vashti and Ahasuerus. I want us to look at it as the anti-sacred marriage narrative. So we've studied the sacred marriage, right? Let's go over it briefly. Sacred marriage always has, right, two very powerful characters. There's always the notion of the woman speaking, right? She's speaking and of the king. So there's a notion of the woman speaking. There's a notion, at least we saw that in Ruth, we saw that in the Song of Songs, right? These are all replayings, right, of the sacred marriage. But going back to Inanna, you have the notion of intimacy, partnership. They are in a way connected, and as a result, the king receives his authority, right, and the land becomes full of life. So we have, right, and we have, of course, later, not in the Inanna story, but later in the biblical versions of the sacred marriage, we do have the woman speaking, right? And the king and the man listening. And as a result, you have something that happens, right? We had this with Abigail and David, Ruth and Boaz, Adam and Eve in a distorted way. Actually, she's not speaking. Yeah, you want to.
I also connected that. That's her house, and she's like saying, "Come to my face," and then there's a padlock like falling also the basement, like stolen water.
So which one is Vashti? Is she why? I see. Oh, okay. I'm taking note. Vashti, Lady Folly, Esther, to be explored. It's an interesting idea. Okay, so what we're gonna do, so you know a little bit about the sacred marriage. We're gonna read chapter 1 together. All the way to the, let's see. Yeah, all the way to, well, I need a fast reader. All of chapter 1. Oh, do we have time? Yeah,
Charles,
kind of.
give us the Chabad version of the quick Book of Esther version.
10 minutes or less.
I feel like you can pull it off when they read it like super quickly.
Okay, chapter 1, Epstein. You read it in English.
No,
I probably actually could read it fast.
Now, as he's reading,
reading.
it's not enough he's reading. You guys are taking notes, all the moments that you think are anti-sacred marriage. Okay, I want us to go over that. I think there's something like that going on here. Okay, go for it. I'm taking notes too.
It happened in the days of Ahasuerus. Ahasuerus reigned for 172 provinces through India and Nubia. In the days of Ahasuerus, occupied the royal throne in Shush, in the capital of Shushan. In the third year of his reign, he gave a banquet to all the officials throughout his kingdom. For no fewer than 180 days, he displayed the vast riches of his kingdom and splendid glory of his majesty. At the end of the period, the king gave a banquet for an additional 7 days in the king's garden for the people who lived in the capital itself. More wealth breeding. Wine was served in abundance as the king got. For the rule of drinking was no restrictions, and every person had a servant with him. In addition to this, Queen Vashti gave a banquet for the women in the royal palace of Ahasuerus. On the seventh day, the king was fairly drunk. He ordered his servants to go and bring Vashti wearing the royal crown to display her beauty in front of the people and the officials, for she was a beautiful woman. Vashti refused the king's command conveyed by his servants, and the king grew very angry with her. The king consulted the sages on what to do, and he bring together his advisors and asked them what to do about Vashti's refusal. Thereupon, Memucan declared that in the presence of the king and his ministers, that Queen Vashti has committed an offense not only to the majesty, but also to the officials and all the people of the kingdom of the province and the provinces. The queen's behavior that will be made of the queen's behavior will make all wives despise their husbands, as they reflect King Ahasuerus himself ordered Queen Vashti to be brought before him, but she would not come. The very day the ladies of Persia and Media who have heard the queen's behavior will cite to all your majesty's officials, and therefore there will be no end of scorn or provocation. If it pleases you, so he goes on to further say, if it pleases your majesty, let your royal edict be issued to you, and let it be written in laws that Vashti shall never enter the presence of the king. And your majesty bestow a royal estate upon another more worthy than her. Then will the judgment be executed of your majesty restored throughout the realm, vast though it is, that all wives treat their husbands with respect in high and low alike. The proposal was approved by the king and his ministers, and the king has proposed. Dispatches were sent to all across the provinces, so to every province in his own script, to every nation in its own language, that every man should wield authority in his home and speak the language of his own people.
Good. All right, let's take note now. What did you find that goes against the sacred marriage narrative that we are used to in the class? What's the first thing you notice? Yes.
Separate parties.
Very good, right? Normally the sacred marriage is the union of the genders, right? It's the fecund union of the genders. You cannot have a life-giving, right, harvest. You can't have fecundity or fertility or the land, right? And blossoming with fruit and flowers and whatever without the male and the female together. Here you have clear separation, right? He has a banquet, she has a banquet. Male, female. Problem, right? Any society where the separation between male and female becomes crystallized is in a dying, decadent society, right? It's danger. Okay, anything else? Yes,
There's no dialogue between.
absolutely.
Order.
Yes, he gives an order. And how, I mean,
And we don't know any reason she gave, it's just conveyed by others, so it's like the game of telephone here.
yes. So so he gives an order. Now, in the sacred marriage of Inanna and Dumutsi, would this have been possible? Is there any orders? Is there anybody giving orders in the Sumerian context? Not really, right?
Well, but she is more, in the beginning more dominant.
Yes, I mean, yes, she's more dominant, but she doesn't order him around, right?
She makes her place. So
Sells him out.
Later, we didn't study that. He deserved it. But yeah, you in the Dumutsi Nana, you have more reciprocity, you have more of an equality of the genders. There's consent, right? he desires her and she is able to consent, right? She's able to, she's listening to his arguments. She's, weighing the for, the against of marrying him, and then eventually she consents. The consent here is wiped out, right? So you have an imbalance here between male and female, which is also problematic. So you have the separation and you have an imbalance where the male is dominating the female. Again, this is putting the cosmos in danger. We have to be really careful here, right? This is a really important point. According to Sumerian literature, it's the balance between male and female which ensures that you have cosmic renewal. Anytime you have separation or imbalance between male and female, the cosmos is in danger and chaos is, right? There's a risk of falling back into chaos. So we have to look even at our own societies, right? We have more and more separation, more and more domination, and more chaos, right? So very nice. Anything else you're seeing here with, yeah.
But it also it extends beyond the community to every household.
Yes, exactly. And every household now is this imbalance, right? So now you have the chaos spreading, right? This is the king really sets the tone. That's what we have so it's the anti-sacred marriage. Instead of the king flowing, instead of life flowing from the king, chaos is flowing from this king, right? So what else? There's a couple more. Notice how they are drinking. This is important. What's the measure here? A really important sentence. I think if we look on the verse, there's a particular expression. Where is it? Can't find this drinking. Oh yeah, the rule. What's the rule for drinking? There's a rule. What's the rule? No restrictions. Okay, now this should ring a bell, right? No restrictions. What happens when there's no restrictions from what we know about sacred marriage, at least in the book of Genesis, the way that we read it? When there's no restrictions, meaning no law, what happens? In every ancient society, chaos, right? No me, no mat. And you take that tree. Remember in the book of Genesis, we have a version of the mat, right? We have the version of the me in the sense that the tree is forbidding, right? There is a restriction. So restrictions, laws, they're there in ancient societies to preserve the cosmos and push away the forces of chaos. If you have the notion of the law is no restriction, you have right now, you are in the reign of chaos. That is what the text is saying implicitly. This king's connection to this king's role as the one who's supposed to ensure order, right? To be the representative of Marduk, gone, right? Okay, that's another one, right? That's problematic. Anybody have anything to say about the way that he wants to display her beauty? What's the issue here? How is it different from sacred marriage? Is that what it says here? Oh, he wanted to bring Queen Vashti to display her beauty. For she was how is that different from what we've read in the sacred marriage context? It's interesting. Yeah. And then sorry. Well, let's get you first. Yes, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think it's not really a reciprocal thing where people are equal. It's more like you're treating someone like a zoo animal. Like
Okay,
placing
yeah.
them on display.
Very nice. And what's the problem about being on display?
The problem is that like you already create that's like a subordinate, like this is my toy.
Okay. So she's she's a thing. She's objectified. She's an object, right?
That's the way to say it.
She's not a subject. We're losing the partnership, right? Now there's just the king and a world of objects, right? So nice. Okay, thanks. King is alone. Only subject. He's the only human being there, right? The queen is not a human being. She's relegated to the realm of objects that the king can dispose of, do whatever he wants to. Anything else about the displaying? You wanted to add? Yeah.
She's an object and he's treating her also like a possession to say to everybody else, see, look at what I have.
Yeah, very good. Possession, right? So there's not this reciprocity that we had before, right? Where she was a subject in her own right, right? So this
It's dehumanized.
Yeah. And the text seems to imply there's a connection in the text between this lack of balance between the male and the female and the forces of chaos that are entering, right, through the king's inability to perform the sacred marriage in a way, right? He's unable to connect to the woman. And that's why you have this drinking, the rule, which is no limit, which is a clear indication that we are in the context of chaos and not order, right? So interesting, right? Good, okay. So we have this, and of course, yes.
He has to act, he has no agency of his own here. He turns to others like, what should I do about it?
I like that. Thank you. That's good. Because why? Because he hasn't been given his authority by, remember, the sacred marriage is that which gives the authority to the king. That's how the king has authority. This man has no authority. Again, the failure of the sacred marriage. He has no authority because he has no woman, right? In a way, no true woman by his side. So he's all, there's chaos, there's no authority. He hasn't achieved he's not a true king, right? Because he hasn't gone through this process of balancing out the male with the female, right? Okay, any comments about this? Do you see what I'm seeing? It's a little bit, it's the best I could do with that passage, that without any commentary. There's really nothing. It's horrible. Okay. Now, I want to spend a little time with you guys because I'm curious why there's a whole chapter on beauty treatments. So all my life, I have been intrigued about the Book of Esther for this reason. I'm like, this is nice, but why is it there? Right. Now that's interesting because I like it. And just for that, it should be there, right? But yet it doesn't feel like, it feels odd that it's there. So let's look at it a little bit. I'm going to describe a little bit in detail what's happening because I've read a little bit on the background of this cultural background. But then I want us to think about why there's a whole chapter, right? I believe it's chapter 2. Yeah, they get captured, and then all chapter 2, you have these beauty treatments, and then the wedding, right? Okay, so let me just give you some highlights on the beauty treatments. It's interesting. So, so the women who are gathered here into this harem are from all over the world, or at least the world of the time. So they can go all the way from India to East Africa. I mean, the Babylon was this big, right? Maybe land of Israel, Syria. These are women from all over the world. And can you tell me what is the dominant climate in this region of the world? Yes?
Hot and dry.
Hot and dry. So what would that do to the skin, ladies? Exactly. So
Right down ugly skin.
exactly. So most women, so this explains why 12 months, right? The women out there are working in the fields, right? And they are probably super parched and super dry. I mean, it would take months to restore that kind of skin, right? So, and they're yet beautiful, but they're all scorched, right? So the whole treatment actually is a hydrating treatment. I took a while to look at it because I enjoy spas. So they give them special food, which probably are hydrating foods, which they don't have access to usually, right? Most people had a very imbalanced diet. Like we live in a crazy world, but we have access to all kinds of foods. At the time, you would eat rice, what am I saying? Bread, some legumes. You would not have vegetables all season. So most of the time you're eating quite imbalanced diet. So here now they're feeding them, right? Fruits, cucumbers, whatever that will hydrate the skin, olives, right? Olive oil and so forth. So these are foods that are not readily available. So they're working on, hydrating them from the inside. And then the myrrh has 2 purposes. I looked at that also. It's a disinfectant, right? So if the women, they needed to be purified, so often they had skin diseases associated with hardship, the work they were doing. So you're treating that and you're hydrating the whole body, right? And then 6 months of perfumes and cosmetics, right? Which was probably henna, perfumed oils, kohl, right? Makeup and so forth. So that's kind of what's going on, right? And then you have that's the whole treatment, right? And then of course she's brought into the king, and it's interesting. There's a detail here I want us to explore also what it means. So she goes in, and where is it? Where? Here, chapter 2. So he asks, so she has a conversation with the eunuch, and where is it? She did not ask for anything, right? But what Haggai, the king's eunuch, advised. I wonder what that is about, right? And then finally, the king prefers her and thrones her, and that's the end of that section. Okay, so I want to hear you guys a little bit. Help me out because no commentators are dealing with this. Everybody's avoiding this, but why? It's a whole chapter. What do you think is the purpose of this chapter? Why is it there? What can we learn? I think mother's house, perhaps that can help, right? What's possible lesson we can learn, wisdom? I don't know. I'm open to anything. In fact, I'll go one by one. I'm gonna go around the table for my benefit, starting with you. Any thoughts?
You're asking Mother House wisdom specifically from the beauty chapter.
Yeah, why is the chapter there? What are we, why is the author spending whole chapter?
So, I mean, for me, I think it has something to do with the quote where they tell Queen Esther, like the fact that she was placed in this situation. They tell her like, "Oh, help us out." And then they tell her that strange line of, "If you don't help us out, salvation will still yet come to us by some other means, but don't think that you won't be swept away with every for your inactivity or something like. If you don't act now, it's actually you who will be jeopardized and not us." And so it's the importance of her action because she's in place in a situation not for the benefits it'll have on other people, but for the benefits it'll have for herself. And so that to some degree, I think is emphasizing like you were put in this situation. And so there's some importance to the situation. So that's why I think the beauty chapter is glamorizing her being put in the glamorization of Esther being put in a situation. Like it's not an active thing that she chose to do, but it's life kind of guiding her into now you're the queen, and now you're linked to King Ahasuerus in this way. And so
Yeah, and you're right. There's a lot of passive, right? She was taken, right? So this is the passive, she's taken, and also she's hiding. Is that where we have the hiding? Where is the hiding? Yeah, she's hiding her name. So there's an element of definitely passivity.
Yeah.
And she's undergoing these treatments,
Yeah.
right? So this is an element of, so you're emphasizing the kind of passivity which is necessary that, to show you, okay, I like that, I like that.
It's like dramatizing
Yeah,
life, like it's emphasizing the dramatization of like life putting you into this situation.
got it. Okay, I like that, I like that. Corcoran, you're
Adding
next.
on to that, I guess it can be seen as a transformation.
Yes, so we have this, you're right, in the sacred marriage ritual. Remember, she always bathes and anoints, always, right? Inanna did it, Ruth did it. So we have this element of transition, right? So this maybe is marking a transition. I like that. So you guys are better than the commentaries. Nobody looking at this. So transitional moment, right, into this new identity. I like that. Anything else, Corcoran, or that's it? Okay, Davidovich, what do you have for us?
Oh, sort of to build up to what David said. It's similar to the story of Yosef when he's taken from the prison to be the
Mm,
viceroy of Egypt and described as like bathed and cleaned and given a ring.
mm.
Things and symbols of power.
Yes. Interesting, because that's different, right? This is like a court context like Esther. So it shows like her ascension, maybe, or definitely again, the notion of transition.
So
Nice connection with Yosef. I'm gonna think about that. Nice. Bedel.
Her sexual attractiveness and her sexual maturity and the use of the oils and perfumes similar to the women in Song of Songs.
Yes.
And also, Inanna, when she announces her, she's ready.
Okay, good. I like that. So this is a kind of,
Making her as, sexually and erotically
Yeah.
attractive to the king as possible.
good.
Which will be a reason for him choosing her. And her not asking for anything or demanding anything also makes her attractive because everyone demands something that they can't.
Oh, they would take the opportunity. Mhm.
Or in anticipation of going to the king, the person who doesn't demand something, to be more alluring, to be She's not revealing everything.
Ooh, yes.
She's holding back something. She doesn't have to make her demands immediately. The desires immediately.
Nice, nice. So that when the time when it's really matters, right, she can have an impact, right? I would, this is a good point
When you
because
ask for something,
it,
stop
yes,
listening to
exactly,
when you ask for
exactly.
something important,
This is good. It's like,
then your
yes,
voice gets heard.
it's like chapter 4 is based on chapter 3, right? Chapter 4 is what, no, it's chapter, sorry. Where is it where she comes into the king to talk to him? Okay, where am I? Where's this? Where's this? Where's this? Where she's talking to him? Blah blah blah. Haman. Okay, Mordechai. Oh, it's much later. Chapter 5, right? So chapter 3 and chapter 5, there's a connection. She in chapter 3, she's hiding, she's silent, she's not asking. In chapter 5, she's revealing, she's speaking, she's asking, right? So you have like it's as though her power in chapter 5 is derived from her decisions here in chapter 3. Interesting lesson, right? In general, actually, Chinese philosophy speaks about this nicely. They say the yang should be based in the yin. In other words, action should be based on inaction. Speech should be based on silence. Then it's very much more powerful. When you're capable of not doing, when the time comes for you to do, it will be powerful. When you're capable of being silent, when the time comes for you to speak, it will be powerful. And I think Esther is keenly aware of this kind of Oriental wisdom. She understands that now is not the time, right? When the time comes, it will make her even more powerful. So I kind of like that. That's and I love the way you put it. It's more mysterious. It makes her stand out, right? That she's not asking. But I think there's a connection between 3 and 5, right? Nice. Okay. Rivera. He is still the spy. I'm digging for gold. Yes, okay, well, you're very practical, right? She needs to hydrate. I mean, how's she gonna please him? Okay, all right, fair enough. We'll leave. Nobody can take this one. Taken now. Okay, good. Michael, tell us, you're from the culture.
Yeah, so I was gonna say that I think the fact that she doesn't request anything, it also similarly shows that she's willing to receive instead of trying to take what she wants. I think that also shows like some element of receptivity, which is like one of the
like
mother's
it.
house things. Because like obviously like David said, she's in a situation now that she can't really get out of. So the best thing to do is just to see kind of what comes
Nice.
instead of trying to like, I guess, force her way through it and like tell the king, oh, like accommodate me in this way.
Mm.
Kind of like, let it play through.
Good, good. You've understood well the lessons of the mother's house, right? She's not taking, she's not doing right. She's not taking the advantage of the situation. She's very much receptive, therefore very feminine. So that in a way, she's even right. I like that very much. And that makes her more seductive, right? The fact that she's a receiver, not a taker. Yeah, I like that. Okay, you guys doing great. Kaplan.
Wow.
And it's hard after all of it. Suresh has the worst.
No, so I feel like it was just included because we were going from like the whole patriarchal view, and it's kind of just added to give like a little push, like, oh yeah, but we do still care about them. We
Okay,
do
okay.
still-"
Feminization of the
Yeah,
narrative.
exactly.
I like that. Nicely put. Epstein.
It's put in there because it's not important.
Ah.
I'm gonna get around to it.
Tell us.
Esther is not there for 6 months.
Okay.
She's maybe there, maybe a month, maybe 2 months
Okay,
max.
all right.
because She's in the king's throne room 3 months later, so she couldn't. She
Wait,
got
what?
brought in and did.
Okay, okay. Slow down. Show us.
Brought in
Verses.
David. David.
Wait. Show us the verses and speak English.
Verse 16.
What? Which chapter?
Chapter
2:16?
or something.
Okay. Hold on. 16. Okay, let's see. Esther was taken in the 10th month. Okay,
Right.
which is the month of David.
And
Okay.
Start of Purim happens in the first month.
But that's Purim where I'm looking here in the text.
No, when she goes into the king's throne room.
Where,
that's
where,
the
where?
First month.
Show me that. Show me that.
That
So she was taken to, wait, she's taken to the king on the 10th
13th
month.
day of the first month, the king scribe summoned by the decree to the king. Right,
Wait, where are you?
I am in now chapter 3, verse 12.
Okay,
The 13th day of the first month,
okay. Oh, yeah, okay.
they were
Uh,
issued the decree of Haman.
3 months. But remember this verse we read me, verse 16. This is when she goes to sleep with the king for the first time. It's not when she's first
Nope, that's
taken
when
in.
she's brought into the palace.
Because remember at the end of the 12, right before that, it talks about at the end of the 12 months, blah, 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 blah. She has this conversation with the eunuch and then she's taken to the king. You see what I'm saying?
I could understand that.
Right? I mean,
However,
yeah.
even with this,
Mm.
Esther's beauty is not mentioned when she wins the heart of the king.
Ah, that's interesting. That's usually a detail that is always given in the biblical text, right? That's a big deal for biblical writers. I'm writing that down. So she's not beautiful, clearly. Otherwise, they would have mentioned it.
She is mentioned to be beautiful.
Where? Oh, before, right?
A lot, it's the
But not because of her beauty, it seems like. Interesting. Interesting. Where is she? What?
Yeah, it's cute.
Where is that?
She-
But where? In chapter 1?
chapter 2.
When she's introduced, right? When is she introduced? Blah, blah, blah. Sometime afterward.
Torah.
Beautiful
Torah
young
9.
virgins. So we have they have to be beautiful already, right? So it's
Chapter 2,
obvious.
verse 7.
Yes. And she's even mentioned as being, okay, so no, she is beautiful
She is mentioned as being
and
beautiful,
shapely. So,
but that's not what
Yeah.
the language they use when she captures the.
Yeah, no, you're right, because anyways, they're all beautiful, so it's boring, right?
Exactly.
So it's gotta be something else, right? Yeah, I like
Beauty
that.
Pageant is not,
Mhm.
it's not won by beauty.
Oh, I like,
Character.
wow, nicely put, okay. The pageant. I'm writing, yeah, I'll quote you. I will quote you. I'll put a big footnote about this class, particular class, and I'll mention all your names. Beauty pageant is not won by beauty, but by, see, you're much better than these awful commentators. Okay, I like it. I like it. Lots of good lessons. Suraj, she wins by, by maybe the femininity, right? The receptivity. There's something else, right? Okay, good luck. What do you have to say?
There's two mother's house principles. There's doing versus receiving.
Mhm.
In chapter 2, verse 9 it states, and she obtained kindness of him, and he speedily gave her her things for purification. So she didn't do any of the purification. She was being received with all of those routines.
Okay, wait, hold on. It's chapter 2, verse 9.
Yes.
The girl pleased him and won his favor. What were you saying about that?
And he speedily gave her her things for purification. So with doing and receiving, she received all of the practices to
Yes.
get purified.
Okay, yes.
That's also corresponds to
Receptivity.
masculine versus feminine, because only the women are undergoing that
Yes.
ritual.
Okay, so the feminization, right? So we have an emphasis here perhaps on receptivity, and the whole spa is about receiving, isn't it? Right? It's about receiving treatment. So maybe there is here a pedagogy of femininity. I don't know,
And
yeah.
that's also reflected in chapter 2, verse 17, because that's how she gets the crown.
Yes, where do you see that?
Set a royal crown upon her head and made her queen instead of Vashti.
Yes, and that is again receiving, right?
Masculine versus feminine.
Ah, okay, very good. Receptivity throughout. Okay, nice. Okay, all right, all right. I can work with that stuff. That's good. Thank you. Okay, good. Now we can end here and talk about the transition moment next time, where she actually goes to the king and seduces the king, right? So for next time, well, before we go any further, any last comments or ideas? I'm open to everything about these chapters, these 2 or 3 chapters we've just done. Anything else you want to add? No, that's it. Okay, you have spoken. Okay, so yes.
I think, that Vashti kind of exists as a vehicle to be removed. And she doesn't serve really any purpose other than to be removed.
Yeah, or to show, yeah.
Also being balanced.
the imbalance, right? It shows the state of the kingdom before Esther arrives, right? Who will try to recreate the balance. Okay, so definitely it is a sacred marriage text because there's so much element about the the new one. Okay, good. So next time you will read for in 2 weeks. Oh, Rivera, tell us.
The commentary over the text of Esther connects the king of Persia with Xerxes the first. Didn't he go to war with the Greeks?
I have no idea.
Well, if it's the
He
right,
would have, yeah.
it's the right king that I'm thinking.
But there were many Xerxes one,
Yeah,
right?
but if it's the right one.
Mhm.
You should make the argument that Vashti's lack of commitment to the sacred marriage allowed him to pursue reckless.
Oh, yes, the toxic masculinity. Oh, yeah. Can you find out if he was the one? Is there a way to find out? I'll let you. You're the historian. We don't know?
Yeah, there's about 4 or 5 different people.
Okay,
We added Xerxes, Darius the first, Darius the second.
mercy. Okay. All right. Well, if it could be
About
Xerxes.
110-year
Yeah.
spot.
Yeah, and also he doesn't seem the type, right, to go to war based on what you were saying, right? He seems very welcoming and kind of inclusive, right, and tolerant. So he seems like to go to war, you need to have a certain personality, right? This king is a little bit kind of,
I think that he just like inherited the previous king.
yeah, yeah.
So you're right.
Actually, the rabbis have an interesting commentary on that. Vashti, the royal line was transmitted by the woman in the Persian Empire, and Vashti was probably the royal one here, and a descendant of an I don't know, Nebuchadnezzar, right? So he's just some bum she fell in love with, and so she's the true royalty. So you can imagine when he tells her, "Come and dance for us," she's like, "Oh, excuse me, like I'm the queen here, like, and who are you?" Right? So he's degrading her to the level of a concubine, right? When he does that. So yes, I can't even, maybe I like the idea it would work.
Political hierarchy.
Yeah, with a political
Of
marriage. What do you think?
Babylonian and
Yes.
He's Persian.
She's probably royalty
Yeah.
from the Persian side.
He's
Yeah.
Persian royalty.
Yeah.
At that point, it wasn't that big of a deal.
Okay. All right.
This is
Fair
kind of
enough.
what the Babylonian and Persian empires merged together.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So he's maybe also, he doesn't seem very royal, but he becomes in time through the influence of Esther. Okay. All right, good. So next time you finish the book and please do your reading assignment, especially on the transition now, when she's fasting, when she's coming to the king, what she says to the king. This is all very important. It's going to be very relevant. Okay, thank you guys a lot. That was great.